Hey everybody. I get asked a surprising amount of questions about different types of salt that we can use in our aquarium. And one of the most common questions I get is it safe to use sea salt in a freshwater aquarium? It's pretty commonly understood that aquarium salt is nothing more than sodium chloride or table salt. And so if you don't want to spend the money on the expensive aquarium salt, you can simply buy untreated table salt. Doesn't have any of the iodide in it or the caking agents or whatever. You can buy that stuff dirt cheap, and it's the exact same thing as aquarium salt. It's just sodium chloride. So where a little bit of confusion probably comes in is we also sell something called sea salt that is meant to put on the table and be consumed as our regular salt. Then there's also a third kind of salt that we think of as marine salt, which is what we use for mixing up marine aquarium systems or saltwater tanks. So moving forward in this conversation, we're going to have three different kinds of salts. So what we're talking about when we talk about aquarium salt or table salt is just going to be sodium chloride and nothing else. When we talk about sea salt, we are going to be talking about the kind of salt that is meant for human consumption. You cook with it, you sprinkle it on your food, but it is derived from seawater. And then the third kind of salt we're going to be talking about is marine salt. And marine salt is like the Instant Ocean brand. It's the stuff you buy at the fish store for mixing into your aquarium. It's not for human consumption, and it's for making saltwater aquariums or reef tanks or whatever. So those are the three kind of salts we're going to be talking about. The first two, as I said, are kind of two and one are the same thing, and that's aquarium salt and table salt. Aquarium salt that we put in our freshwater tanks serves the purpose of providing an easily accessible source of sodium for our fish. That's the only thing it does. When you're putting aquarium salt in your aquarium, all you're doing is providing a little bit extra sodium, because your freshwater fish do need to extract sodium out of the water through their gills. They need it for their electrolytes in their body, and putting a little bit of aquarium salt in there simply adds a little bit of sodium. So that aquarium salt, when you buy it at the store with the API brand packaging and all that, it's $4 or $5 for a little container of it. But you can just go to your grocery store and buy table salt that is sodium chloride, and if you buy it without the anti-caking agent and without the iodide or whatever, just pure table salt, it's the exact same thing. It's simply sodium chloride and nothing else. There's no other additives to it. So a question I get asked a lot is it okay to use sea salt as a replacement for table salt or aquarium salt? You know, I got this stuff on my table. I don't have any of the kind of table salt you're talking about, but I do have sea salt. Is it okay to use the sea salt in my aquarium? And I've always been a little confused about that, but I looked into it today. I did some research, and the short answer is just going to be no. Just don't mess with the sea salt. There's too many unknowns and too many variables in sea salt. If you have a reason for making a saltwater aquarium, whether it's going to be a brackish tank, a reef tank, or whatever, spend a lot less money and buy the stuff that's specifically made for that to go in the aquarium. Buy the Instant Ocean brand, or there's a few other brands out there that you can buy that are salts that are designed for making seawater. If you taste that, it does not taste anything like what you think of when you think of the sea salt that you're sprinkling on your food. Trust me, you would not want to sprinkle Instant Ocean or one of these reef mixes or whatever. You would not want that flavor on your food. It tastes like ocean water, and if you've ever tasted ocean water does not taste good. So when we come to this stuff that's called sea salt, that's where I've always been baffled. Why, if they simply take ocean water, which is how they make it apparently, they take ocean water and they just evaporate all the water away until they're eventually left with all the salts that are left behind. Maybe ocean water, is also flavored with whale poop and dead seaweed, and who knows what else makes the ocean water taste so bad. I don't know. But if that's the case, then Instant Ocean really did their homework and really recapitulated the flavor of whale poop and rotten algae and stuff, because Instant Ocean, if you put a little dab of that powder on your tongue, it tastes like ocean water, and it's nasty. It does not taste like salt. It's salty, but it tastes like that salty ocean water. And again, it's not a pleasant flavor. It's not something you'd want to put on your food. So how they dissolve or evaporate away ocean water and are left with the salts, They do wash it. They clean all the debris and material and dead fish and all that stuff out of it, and you're left with just the salts. And another thing that has confused me about it is I've seen labels on the sea salt that say that it's sodium chloride, and it doesn't list any other minerals, just sodium chloride, and that's not what ocean water is made out of. However, if you actually look at the chemistry of ocean water, most of it is made of sodium and chloride, and like calcium and phosphate and all that stuff are way down here as far as the amount by volume. And so the way we have labeling laws here on food labeling stuff in the United States is meant to benefit the manufacturer more than the consumer. And so there may not simply be enough of these other minerals in sea salt to even have to be put on the label. If it's mostly sodium chloride, that may be the only thing they're legally required to put on the label. I did read some labels that just said it's 100% pure sea salt, whatever that means, you know. So it's kind of weird. And an example of what I'm talking about with the labeling is if you look at our like Splenda or Sweet and Low or whatever, the 0-calorie sweeteners, those have 4 calories per serving in them, but they're 0-calorie sweeteners. And that's perfectly legal because the food industry lobbied to get laws passed that allow any food item that has less than 4 calories per serving is now a 0-calorie food. I mean, technically, if you made a serving of ice cream about that big, you can say ice cream is a 0-calorie food because as long as there's less than 4 calories in that serving, you can say it's 0 calories. So what you read on the label is not necessarily what you see in the package. And so when you look at sea salt and it says 100% sodium chloride, yet it also claims that it has been, you know, evaporated from the Mediterranean Ocean. How, like, there's got to be other stuff in there, and there is other stuff in there. Again, I'm just not sure how it works with the labeling, and that's where you get into the don't bother with it. Like, it's expensive. I don't know why you would want to use it. I guess if you were in a situation where all you had was, you know, maybe that's like what you prefer to eat on your food, and you know, you got a 10-gallon tank, you need to put a little bit of salt in or something, and that's all you've got on hand. It's probably not going to be a big deal, honestly, if you used it. But again, why would you? If you can just get the cheap stuff, 88 cents, it's for like 2 pounds of it or whatever one of those things weighs. You know, you can avoid all the other stuff. I will say on a side note about the iodized salt and the salt that has anti-caking agents in it. Honestly, neither of those are anything to worry about either. There's so little iodide in there that if you were to put enough salt in your tank to get the iodide levels high enough to be dangerous for your fish, you would have long ago pickled them in brine. There's so little iodide in there that that's not going to harm your fish. And the same with the anti-caking agents. That's usually, that's similar stuff to what they put in your underarm stick, believe it or not, like aluminum oxide or titanium dioxide. And it just absorbs moisture and it keeps the salt from sticking and clumping and that sort of thing. And the tiny little bits of it that you would be putting in your tank if you use that are just negligible. They're not going to really matter one way or the other. However, having said all that, I'm going to stick with what I keep saying is why. If you can just buy the regular old aquarium salt that doesn't have any of that stuff in it, it's readily available, it's not difficult to buy. If you're at your salt aisle and you've got your choice between like Himalayan sea salt and, you know, you got all this good, you know, there's going to be a choice of just plain salt that has no stuff in it, no iodide added to it. Buy that. Just get the plain salt and don't make it all complicated and confusing with sea salts and iodide and all this kind of stuff. Just buy the plain salt and use that. Stay away from sea salt. And again, if you're trying to mix up a marine aquarium or something like that, use the stuff that's made for mixing up a marine aquarium. Don't try to take sea salt and reconstitute ocean water out of it or whatever. Just leave the sea salt stuff alone and just go with either sodium chloride or go with the instant ocean or the stuff that's made to be made into seawater. leave the sea salt stuff alone. So those are my 3 or 4 cents on that topic. I would like to hear your thoughts on it as well. Any opinions or whatever, if you've got on that, I'd be interested to hear. And don't forget, I do a live stream every Friday night and Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I do a private live stream for members only on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're a member, you won't miss that one either. So thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you real soon in the next one.